Well, howdy folks, welcome back to the shop. So look at what we got here. So, sometimes I'm asked to help clean up some places, and, I usually haul away the scrap and make a few extra dollars on it. Well, this little guy here was in the scrap pile. And my first initial inspection of it is you can see that, the top of it's faded, so it was sitting out in the sun. It actually faded the gas to the point where you can't even see what the level is. This is a level gauge in here. And, I noticed that there's a little bit of a plastic film on this. Like, this was never even removed. So, other than outside, the outside of it looks good, except for, like I said, it's being a little bit faded. If you turn around here a little bit, the only other thing I noticed exterior-wise is this bracket here. I don't know if somebody dropped this muffler, maybe bent it a little bit. So this bracket's a little bit bent, but that's no big deal. That's a minor fix. It don't even really need to be fixed, really. On this side here, the muffler's rusted and stuff, but, if it was sitting outside, that's kind of common. And on the front here, the fuel petcock I did notice was turned off. I see some rust, minor rust damage in here, some discoloration. But look, it even still has the tags on it, saying about putting oil in it. Make sure you don't run it without oil and whatnot. So I don't even know really what's wrong with this yet. But the first initial inspection, it looks pretty good. It turns over real easy. There's oil in it. And after looking everything over, there is one thing that I noticed right away, and that's when I took the gas cap off. So if you look at the gas cap, this part is pretty rusted. So then I looked inside the tank here, and let me tell you, it's pretty bad inside. So this thing had got water in it, and it rusted the inside something fierce in here. I'm hoping it's just mainly surface rust. There's nothing leaks outside that I can tell yet. So what we're going to do first thing is probably take this tank off and get it soaking with some sort of acid. Now you can use muriatic acid, a solution like that. They say it's a little bit more of a pain to clean up, but you can also use phosphoric acid. So what I ended up getting is, and that's what I'm going to use, is it's a Rust-Oleum rust dissolver. This is basically phosphoric acid. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill up this tank and let it sit for probably a day or two and see how well it gets that tank clean. But in the process, or in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and, why not look at the air filter? Let's look at the spark plug. Let's, even though the oil looks good, I think I'm going to go ahead and drain it and, inspect it, make sure that no water got into it. And then I'm going to probably go ahead and fix this bracket back here. So with that said, let's get started. All right, so get this tank off. It's rather simple. We just got to take the hoses off on this side here, and then it's just these 4 bolts. So we're going to go ahead and get that taken off. But one thing I wanted to make note of is, I said about the petcock being off. So with this all having all this rust and stuff in here, I was kind of worried that, water had went down the line here and then got into the carburetor. Well, if you take off the fuel filter, and from what I can see inside, there's nothing inside this filter, which means usually, or I'm hoping at least, that none of this rust or debris got down inside the carburetor. But like I said, we're going to take that off and look at it anyway. So let me get this tank off, and I'm going to go ahead and get it soaking, and I'll bring you back and we'll start looking through everything else. Alright guys, all it says to do is basically just dump that stuff right in. It says sometimes you can dilute it, but you can use the full strength. So as bad as this tank is, I'm going to use a full strength. And let me tell you, it's kind of hard to see in there, but you can see already that I can see bare metal in there. So it's definitely working. Alright guys, while we have the tank outside cleaning, let's go over a few things. So one of the first things that I want to do here is I want to make sure this is on. But let's see if this thing has any spark to it at all. Boy, I don't know if you saw that. There's definitely spark there, so that's a good sign. So that means there's nothing wrong with the ignition system. let's take this spark plug out just to see if it tells us anything. And I can tell from the outside of the spark plug there, you can see it's a little rusty on the outside, but all in all, honestly, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to hit this with the wire brush here and clean this up real quick. All right, I went ahead and got it cleaned up. I didn't want to go crazy with it, but let's set it down here and see if we can see a spark in it. And it sparks really well, so we're just going to go ahead and put this guy back in here. And you didn't have to clean up the outside of the spark plug. I did it because I wanted to. Now that we got the spark plug and stuff in, I wanted to point out something too is, you know, I was checking this earlier. If you pull it over slow enough, this thing has plenty of compression to run. It don't feel like there's anything internally wrong. So that's why I'm not even going into checking that kind of stuff. So let's look at this carburetor and see if we can find anything that maybe any of that rust, or if there was water or something, you know, see if it got down in there. I mean, honestly, you look at this, the whole engine here, everything, it, other than being a little bit dirty, it really looks clean. All right, so here's something. Notice you can see in the air filter, and it's a two-piece, it looks like. It's either, oh, but this is definitely oil. You can see it, it's definitely oil. So I'm hoping it's from, you know, transporting it, or, you know, being thrown around. So that's something we'll have to look at and keep an eye on. And here's what I was meaning. You can see the oil down in here and stuff. So I'm just going to go ahead and wipe this out. I'll probably spray it down with some brake cleaner. What I'm going to do is the bottom of the float, and let me spin you around here. So the float's right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the float bowl off just to see if there's anything in it, because in all reality, if there's nothing in it, there's really no reason to take the carburetor off. Oh, and right there, that is old gas. So what that tells me is we're gonna have to take this carburetor off and get it cleaned. So let's go ahead and get this taken apart. And these carburetors really aren't hard to get off. And the reason why I tap it like that is I'm trying not to damage the gasket, because I don't really want to have to get a gasket if we don't have to. Alright, so, and there you go. She definitely needs some good cleaning here. It's not terrible actually, but it's not great. And what we're going to do now is, I told you about this bracket. It was broke on, or bent on this exhaust here. All right, so after looking at this bracket down here, someone either had to bend this, or it might have been done like that factory. So I'm not even going to mess with it. The only thing that we are going to do is we're going to take the exhaust off, and since we're cleaning up everything else, why not get it cleaned up too? And all right, that's good. It didn't damage the gasket there as well. So and there's what I was meaning by this bracket. It's bent like that, but I think it's actually meant to be that way. I'm not sure, but it won't hurt anything, so I don't really want to mess with it. So I'm going to go ahead and get the exhaust cleaned up. I'm not going to do too much to the carburetor other than spray it down. So let me get everything cleaned up, and I will bring you back, and let's start getting this thing back together and see if she runs. Alright guys, so I didn't really do anything to this carburetor, but I wanted just to show you that I actually do not think that this gas was that bad in it. Yeah, it was getting a little bit thick, but as soon as I hit it with some cleaner, that stuff evaporated or vanished, and I'm telling you what, this thing came clean. I sprayed in this hole, you could see it come out the jets inside here. Sprayed in that hole, you could see it come out. I took this screw out, sprayed through there, you can see it coming out all the jets. So I don't think I'm going to do anything more with this other than put it back together and get it on, because I'm just very surprised on how well it cleaned up that fast. I don't think that I think someone ran the gas out of it and it was just residue left in there, so that's what I'm hoping. So like I said, we're just going to put it back together and see what happens. None of the gaskets are bad or anything like that. I'm just going to do an eyeball float level, and it looks pretty good. And we're going to stick this on, and we're going to turn. Now this is kind of a nice feature. This has a you can drain the bowl out in this, so that's a real nice feature. So whenever you put this carburetor on, you want to make sure you turn it to where you can get access to it. So I'm going to put it over here so it's real easy to get to this side, and then we'll go ahead and put the bottom bolt back in and just snug that up. And then honestly, we're ready to start putting this carburetor back together. All right, and you guys might be wondering why I'm, reusing all this stuff, and not getting new parts like a new air filler, and putting a new spark plug in it. Kind of the main reason is I'm curious to see if I can get running with everything that was originally with it. So I'm curious to see basically why it was thrown away. So far my guess is probably going to be neglect, like someone just left it sit outside, and once they saw the rust in the tank they decided to get rid of it. But I don't know, because without the carburetor being dirty, it's got plenty of nice spark. That brings me to my next point. We need to find out what this oil looks like in here. Okay, so one of the things that I want to do is I want to pour the oil into a clear container, because I want to see if there is any water in it. And honestly, so far, from what I can see, that oil is in extremely clean condition. All right, guys, I brought you outside because all we need to do really is put the gas tank back on, put some gas in the tank, and see if she'll start. So let's just walk through real quick what all happened. In the meantime is, the exhaust, I took and put it in a sandblast cabinet, and I just basically took off the heavy stuff, and then I sprayed it with some high temp paint that I had laying on the shelf. You guys seen me do the carburetor and pretty much get it all back on, so it's all good, ready to go. Was very happy and very surprised on how clean that carburetor was inside. Yeah, there was a little bit in the bottom of that float bowl, but you hit it with some brake clean and carb clean, man, it just completely went away, so it disintegrated. So I did let the oil sit overnight, actually the couple days that I let the tank soak, and I did not see any water, any contamination in the oil. It smells like good oil. So, but one thing that I did find, which I'm kind of surprised, is it was this much over full. So I'm not sure exactly why. So I ended up reusing this oil because you can see it's relatively clean yet. So my thought was, since there was nothing in it, no contamination of any kind, my thought was I'm going to put it back in. I'm going to run it for a little bit, maybe a couple hours or something, and then I'm going to drain it out and put fresh oil in. I figured there's no reason to put fresh oil in, then drain it, and then put fresh oil in. Since this oil is not really that bad a shape, yeah, it's a little dirty, but I mean, that's what oil's supposed to do, is, you know. So with that said, well, let's talk about the gas tank first, though. So the gas tank right here, I don't know if I can get the right angle for you to see inside it, but I did take a picture of the inside, and let me tell you, that Rust-Oleum rust dissolver, it really did an excellent job in this. I am very surprised. However, it is not fast. It took 2 days. I mean, I was surprised it took 2 days to get this thing clean. There was some heavy scaling in there. I'm very happy though, because none of it broke through. So the tin on this must be relatively thick yet. So it didn't break it all the way through, or it was a lot more surface rust in there than I thought. Maybe it was leftover gas that you know, made crusties in there. I'm not sure, but I cannot be more than happy with that. It is just excellent. So with that said, let's get this back on. Let's put some fuel to it and see if she'll start. All right, here goes nothing. Look at there. She started right up. So we're gonna check the voltage. This has a DC outlet on it, and it's actually running a little high. It's like 14.8, 14.9, which is actually good for charging batteries. Let's check the AC side. And it's running a little high too. It's at 130. What we're gonna do is we're gonna adjust that down just a little bit. And most generators have a screw like that you can adjust it, and all you do is adjust it for around 120 volts. So it seems to be running good. So we have a heater here. They're relatively good loads for something like this. So I figured we hook it up and see how well it does. Okay, this heater pulls pretty much at the maximum of what this is, so I had to put it on low. That's why it was on high, and it was starting to bog us down. You know, this is only a 1.4 kilowatt, and this draws 1500 watts, which is 1.5 kilowatts. So it's a little over what this guy can do, but you can see, put it on low and it seems to run fine. So I'm calling this a good project, and it works good. So with that said, oh, look, got a little bit of smoke coming off the exhaust. It's probably the paint, you know, burning off that I had sprayed on it. But yeah, with that said, you know, hope you enjoyed the video and kind of stepping through the process on how I got this thing running. You know, this is a piece of junk that someone threw out. I thought it could be rescued, and so and behold, it is rescued. I don't even know what I'm going to use it for yet, but it's a nice little generator, and I'll go from there. So thanks for watching. Please hit that like and subscribe button if you can, and until next time, take care.